Okay, thank you very much for organizing this amazing conference online. And I wish that I could present physically, because this is first time for me speaking for Latin American lovely people that I always would like to visit such countries and lovely people, because I always meet your people and most of you in Java 1 at San Francisco, but because of pandemic we are online, but at least I'm presenting here. So I have a lot of things to do today and to say. I would like to share it with you. So I will start directly to my presentation. So thank you for having me, and I wish that you will get a lot from this presentation. Any question, you could reach me at the end of the presentation, or just drop me a DM on Twitter or whatever the communication channels that I will share with you. Let me share my screen to go directly to presentation. So I hope that you can see my presentation.
Yes, it's working.
Okay, I will switch off my video so it will be more smoother. So today I would like to give you insights, not all the features and enhancement that we brought to Java since we moved to 6 months release cadence. It's just the most important feature that during my career path and mentoring my team, we found this is the most used features and excited that you should be aware of in order to make your development day by day more and much more easier. So if you don't find some features or something that you would like to know about, I encourage you that you go for the OpenJDK, the release, and then you will find all the bunch of the features that released. And I here also in this presentation, I have included a lot of links for each feature, the Java enhancement proposal number and links. So when you watch this presentation on my GitHub online, you can click on the links, you can go to different sources, read more about the features, because I'm not going to deep dive into each features. I'm just going to show you what we brought and what can you do with these features in your day-to-day work. So my name is Mohammed Taman, and I'm originally from Egypt, but I moved to Serbia, and now I'm working and living in Serbia. I'm working as a chief architect and CTO for my company. I'm doing trainings, consultancy, and software development for a variety of companies in Europe. And this is how I live every day. Besides this, I'm Java champion, Groundbreaker ambassador, and let me switch here. Yes, participate in Java technology for a long time. So you will find me around in many conferences. So I hope to catch any of you. I write frequently to Java Magazine, Oracle Magazine, InfoQ, and IBM Developer. Also, I included some relevant links for more reference in this presentation, so you can go to read about and see a lot of code that you can use and make use of it in your day-to-day. If you'd like to catch me, definitely you can reach me on LinkedIn and definitely on GitHub. All my project, all my source code, all my trial, proof of concepts, you will find on my GitHub. SlideShare, you'll find my presentation, my blog, and finally, it's easier to get me on Google. Just search my name and you'll find all of this. And definitely, I'm living on Twitter. So whenever you would like to reach me, just DM me, follow me, and I will be happy to have you as a follower. So let's start. As we know, in Java history, we were releasing Java by eras from year to year, like 5 years, 3 years, 4 years, from version to version. And you can see on this roadmap, for example, how much does it take to release Java 6, then Java 7 in 2011. It's almost like 5 years almost to release version, which is something we found it's not innovative. It doesn't bring all the features right away to the developers to use it, while there is a lot of programming languages taking the market and leading, while Java is one of the best programming languages that we are using, and it's very old, and it keeps its reputation until now. We need to move Java forward. So since 2017, we decided to introduce not just the module system, the main concept of releasing Java frequently. So you can have a lot of features. No, we cannot say a lot because we will be limited to 6 months and move afterward. We have many challenges because with this release, we would like to introduce some features because also the time is tight. We have to introduce mechanisms to get feedback from you. The same like concept of incubator modules and also preview features. And you will hear about this shortly. And you will see how your feedback to most of the feature really brought a lot of innovation and the change to the features of the language that we brought. And you will see this, as I told you, shortly. So since Java 9, we start to release Java each 6 months. And now you can see that we are going to release Java 15 just right after 15 days, like 15 of September. And we have 2 releases in September and March. So next March, it will be Java 16. Next September will be Java 17, and so on. So the big changes since Java 9, and which is not maybe relevant for all the people, and there is a lot of confusion and questions about this, which is module system. So because of the marketing, people start to say, okay, if I would like to migrate from Java 8, and this is the most adopted version worldwide until now is Java 8. Why? Because it has Lambda, which is functional programming, and we have compact profiles, we have a lot of enhancements, but when we would like to move Java 9 and forward, even the latest version, everyone think about, I should move to the module system. No, you shouldn't. You normally could move easily to Java 14 with the same code base without changing your code base to module system and still using class path, not module path. It's optional. Modularity is optional. Modularity out there for just when you would like to. It's very good for library management systems, tooling, and very high-level enterprise architecture for systems and libraries like Maven, like tools like JUnit, like all of this. If you'd like to maintain your library and make use of more encapsulation, the same library could be used with different modules. So you have module system. And we introduced mainly module system because a lot of changes we faced, we were introducing like Java ME, Java EE, Java SE, Java Car, Java Mobile. So we have to introduce many versions. But the module allow us to bundle together one or more packages and offer stronger encapsulation than jars. Why? Because we are working with clouds, we are working with serverless computation now, and Java should be not running in big footprint on memory, and also it shouldn't be big size when you deploy it or you have runtime environment. At the same time, for productivity, I should have one code base, and whenever I use just enough API that I used, I can produce my runtime environment. So I don't have to bundle all the JDK APIs with me. This allows scaled down runtime jars. So it's very relevant for IoT, microservices, embedded devices, and cloud computing. And also we now have a stronger encapsulation and security. Why? Because sometimes if you'd like to hide some libraries in the unsafe class, one of the most famous class that is intended to use internally by the JDK and internal API, but all of the tools and IDEs, and because it's very efficient to deal with memory, native memory, and a lot of allocation and spreading and everything, but I cannot deprecate it, I cannot make it private, because if it's private, I cannot use it in different module in JDK. different packages, and it should be public. And if it's public, means it can be used by any other source code. So this is one of the weakest security point of view and encapsulation. So how we can prevent this? By the module system. So the module system brought the concept of public is not public anymore. So what does it mean? You can define your class as a public. That's very nice. But whenever it is, if you don't declare it in your module info as it is exported to outside world, nobody can access it. But you can tell me it's a public with public modifier, yes. But if you don't export it to the outside world, nobody can import it and use it. This is how we brought encapsulation and more stronger. This is allow us to focus more and freely change the internal implementation and mechanism of the JDK and GRE and GVM without worrying about the background compatibility and other people using out this. And you will see that we have removed a lot of tools and APIs and classes and interfaces, which is, we are cleaning. So now JDK becomes more clean, more modular, and really it's very nice. So you will see on my journey here, definitely we will visit the API, which is deprecated because we have to know it because of the migration. And this is the second question. So what to worry about if I would like to migrate from Java 8 to whatever the version I would like to migrate, at least Java 11, because this is a long-term support, or Java 15, for example. So you have to worry about only which tools and API we have removed and deprecated. That's it. Not about migrating to module system. Only migrate if you would like to migrate. And I know that you know, and here is also one big tutorial about the theory and motivation behind modularity, and how also you can migrate and make use of all the features of modularity if you would like to have it. Just you will click on the link and you will go for this. So I will not repeat this info. Whenever you see a link, it means it's a clickable and you can visit for more information. So project, we called it Jigsaw, which is modularity. It's mainly intended for 5 goals. We produce modular JDK for producing modular runtime. We have to modularize Java source code, and we did this. And now we don't have one single tools or source.zip. We have modules. We would like to have a modular runtime images so we can control what we are producing as the runtime, so we don't need any more GRE. So encapsulate Java internal API. This is one of the biggest goals, as I explained it before, for more freedom and change frequently without worrying about the background compatibility, and also for Java platform module system, which is intended for us as project authors. So when we develop, we can modularize our code the same as JDK has been modularized. So here is a big tutorial about this. So tools that could help us for migration, we have introduced in the JDK. You can list all the built-in Java modules using Java --list modules. And also you can find all the JDK internals API. So if you have a jar file and you would like to migrate, you should be aware which internal API you are using, the same like unsafe or something that you should not use it before. It shouldn't be used by your own code. So you can run the gdeps, which is Java deprecations, with JDK internal flag, and it will list for you all the libraries that you have used, and sometimes it could suggest for you which changes you should done in order to replace these implementations. And another one, which is deprecation, the deprescan will show you which APIs are deprecated or is going to be deprecated or marked for removal, because since Java 9, we start to introduce new feature. We always deprecate, but we never removed any features. It's always just deprecated. So it's nice and not to use it. But if you still use it, no problem. You still have it in the GDK. Since Java 9, we start to remove actually the classes. So you could migrate to different GDK from 11 to 15, for example, and then you will find your application failed because no class found exception or no method defined exception. Why? Because we have removed it. So we start to remove it. We intended to deprecate in one release. After 2 releases or more, we removed that feature. So we gave you 2 releases in order to migrate. So you can find also a blog about migration, and you can read about it and give me feedback if you would like and if you have any questions. So because of this, as I told you before, we have this new 6-month release cadence and how it's work with LTS, long-term support, because we are, as a developers, we normally download the GDK, we use it, whatever is the version, but this doesn't work for companies. Companies need to have long-term support. Why? Because they are not vulnerable to migrate to different GDK and they have bugs. So you should rely on long-term in case you have bugs, problems, security issues, it should be supported. So this is allow us for faster releases and long-term support. We are releasing this. If you are working for corporate, you should know when and which version to use and when to move. So actually you can find here that, for example, I'm giving an example for Oracle GDK and all of the implementers of OpenGDK, because Oracle GDK is just based on OpenGDK, and then they provide support for that and many other enhancement and tools from their perspective, which is support their languages. There is another many implementers, the same like Azure, the same like Amazon Corito, Alibaba. There is a bunch of implementers, and you can use OpenGDK normally. But OpenGDK is the reference implementation for the GDK. So you can see here OpenGDK under GPL license, and Oracle GDK definitely under Oracle license mixed license. So you will find that OpenGDK does not provide any kind of long-term support, only companies that provide support for that. And we recently heard that Oracle require a payment to get the long-term support. So it's a very big problem for corporate to pay for this, or sometimes what if I'm running my small business and they don't like to pay now and they would like to continue using the innovation. There is an article we wrote as a Java champion introducing to you all the implementers of OpenGDK. I will show you this link shortly. And then you will find some examples, like you have Amazon Corito. Amazon Corito provide for JDK 8 and JDK 11 long-term support for free. So you can download it and use it, especially if you are running your application on AWS, because all the AWS, Amazon Web Services, running on Amazon GDK Corito. So it will be great mix and fit if you are using OpenGDK and you would like to, you are going to migrate your, it doesn't mean that you cannot use any GDK. No, you can use, but always when you have something that fit together, like hardware and software engineered together, like Oracle Slogan or Apple, when they are doing with their hardware and software, it will be interesting to have this. So here is the rules. Each 5 years, we introduce new long-term support. So now we have 11, which this next long-term support, it will be 17. So, and then we will leave Java 11 for some time, for like 2 more releases, in order that you to leave for you a gap that you can migrate and you already have the previous version until you migrate for this. And then we stop supporting the older version. So I can see also, or I can say that Java SE 11 is really start to cleaning for the Java jungle. What does it mean? We start to remove tools and features since Java 11. Because before that, we start, as I told you, since Java 9, we start to deprecate for removal. And we have 2 releases, 9 and 10. Then it comes to Java 11, we start really remove the feature that we have deprecated before in order and mark it as a removal in Java SE 11. And this is why in Java SE 13 and 14, we have also, and 15 even, we removed some features as you are going to see in a few moments. So what's behind the new license module of Oracle, as I told you? And the question is, Java still free of charge? Yes, it is. And you can access this link and you'll find all the list, a big list of all the names that provide OpenJDK as an implementation, long-term support, and the free versions of long-term support from big names. So don't worry, you still use Java, and Java is still innovative, and we are going to bring more. And for the first time, starting from Java 12, we start to introduce a preview language feature. Why is this? Because as I told you before, we don't have much time as before, like 5 years or 4 years to introduce Java. So we have a lot of testing, a lot of like feedback from people, but also this is like, okay, we produce Java for developers and for professionals. So we would like also to include their feedback, how this feature could be very helpful for them. So what we did, okay, we introduced preview feature. It doesn't meant to be for production. This is why you have to enable it with a flag, -- preview feature. And then you can use it on your own risk. Why we do this? Because there is a change for this feature. When we change means it will break your code, but you know this previously. And also, if you go for production, you cannot enable this feature unless you switch it on these flags. And this is prevent you from accidental problems in production. And if you are running on like proof of concept and some stuff, that you don't bring all of this and it will not work normally if you don't switch this flag on. So it's meant to be preview feature. Sometimes we could remove the feature totally, or just introduce a second preview, for example, to introduce the new change. Then we see there is no feedback from the people, and then, okay, we are going to release it. Until now, we go like for 2 preview releases, each 2 versions. Then we standardize on the 3rd release, as you are going to see now. So this is just like introduction, what the changes around the JDK happens from the license, from the history, from the release cadence, from the feature previews, and also incubator. Incubator is a concept of also the same like feature, but preview feature meant to be for Java language features, but API incubator, it's meant to be for the APIs, like the socket API we introduced, HTTP, new HTTP implementation it's an API. So it's not part of the language. So it's under incubator module, and then it will be, when it's released, it will be under its own module. So our agenda now, we are going to see what's new in the language, which is the most interesting parts, explore new language features, what most new and improved API, and farewell to API that has gone forever, in order to know when we migrate, what is removed in each version. So let's deep dive now. The first thing that I would like to say, as I told you before, maybe you noticed that there is no more GRE. So only you download JDK. Why? Because GRE installation package is gone since Java SE 11. This is because we have JLink. JLink is a part of the tools in bin folder that allow you to create a custom runtime images. So you have your source code, you can run JLink with some command, and this is included in some links that I provided frequently on how you can do this. So JLink simply can be used to link a set of modules along with their transitive dependencies to create a custom modular runtime images for your code. So for example, if I have an application that use threading and use some networking, and that's it, So when you would like to compile, it will compile, and then you say, okay, I would like to have runtime images customized for my application. So it will just get all the thread related packages and classes, and what's the transitive means all the classes it depends on, and the same time for networking, and that's it. The same concept of compact profiles, that static compact profile that we introduced in Java 8, but it was static. You cannot customize it. But here it's fully customizable. So it's brought to you, so like if you have a Hello World application and you would like to run it, you should have a GRE version, which is 60 meg, in order just to run Hello World, which is using string class, and that's it. So using G-Link, you can produce like 2K package, and that's it. You don't have all this redundancy and classes related and all of these bunch of the classes loaded in the class path and introduce a lot of like footprints. Why we have to have all of this? So new language tools that we brought also for quick learning, and also it's meant for students to grab Java more and more. So we have this shell, you heard about it. And inside it's very interactive, the same like JavaScript, Python, or whatever it is. You just open G shell, and then you can write a statement, expressions, whatever it is, without any kind declare classes. So if you have a new feature and you would like to try it, you don't have to have an IDE and create public static void main in order to have this kind of boilerplate and create things. In order to try it, you have D shell, which is scripting language now, and you can try whatever you like. So there is a bunch of part 1 and 2 about this. So also one of very interesting one is like, I am writing simple Java class and I would like to run it. In old days, we have like Hello World application, and with a most famous dancer public static void fancy, which is main. And then we would like to print some text, and then what should we do? We should compile first to .class and then run .class with Java as these two statements, Java C and Java this. Why we have to do this? So now we can run Java with Java. How? With starting from Java 11, we can launch single file source code. So it's easy if I have Java, and we can just use Java and hello world.java, and it will run immediately. This is very interesting feature, and it brought to us another big feature, and I will show it to you. So let's now, this is from learning tool perspective. So if you have a simple class that you would like to run, all self-contained in one class, and it uses only JDK classes, you can run it with Java directly without compilation. It will be run and compiled in memory. So this is very powerful tool, and for learning easy. So you write, you run. So it's like playground, and you have the scripting using G shell. So one of the interesting introduced like in order in Java 10, the var, which is synthetic sugar. So you can use var, and it's like it acts as a type. This is first introduced and in using JEP 286, and you can use it like this. I'm always here using J shell because I'm trying features. So as you can see, it's very easy to have it without ID and show you. So if I have a string, it will infer the name as a string. If I have like substring, it will infer it. If I have get type, it will say like, this is a string man, because I know I inferred it from the right-hand side. If I have a list and say var, it will, and I do some streaming about it, it will work, and it will tell me that everything is fine and no problem for this, because whatever it is, just synthetic sugar on runtime and compiled or in source code. And whenever you compile it, it will infer the original type. It's still static. It's not like dynamic, because Java is a statically typed language. So just make it easier for longer declaration to be just using var. Since you have the right side is really easy to infer from it, the type, it will be easier to infer the type, and then it will replace it on compilation, and it will work like charm. So you will have this tutorial for jar and what to use and what to not use on this link. So in Java 11 also we introduced, first introduced in Java 10. In Java 11 we did some little bit enhancement. So especially when we use lambda expression. When we use lambda, we can use lambda like this, and we can use it like this, but we cannot use it like this. But somebody will ask me or tell me like, hey man, why we have to have a var while I can use like a, b equal like this, the first one, even without any kind of var? Why I need var? Because sometimes we need annotations, and annotation needs a type. And in order to simplify it, we have to support var inside lambda for annotations. So let's also, do you remember when I told you about run Java with Java? This is the same feature, but another like very powerful. I use it for automating some DevOps like scripts. Instead of writing bash file, I'm writing Java file and run it as a bash file, which is the shebang notation. So if you have a source code like this and only it applies all the .java rules, so you can go to the JIT to see what is the rules in order to run it with Java, and just add this line, which is use the source Java. Now you can use 15 or 14, and then you write your code. Then you just make it executable. It doesn't see the name here. It's directory lister, and I named the file as a directory list. But in Java, we should name the source code file the same like class name. And when using a single source file, it doesn't matter because it's compiled in memory. So it doesn't look for the file name. So you mark it as executable. Then simply you just invoke it as any of bash files, and it will run normally without any problem. If you would like to read more about it, go to JIPS 330, and you will have more about this. It's a very powerful tool. So we also introduced a new API module for HTTP and WebSockets. So this is first introduced as a HTTP client and the WebSocket API originally shipped with JDK 9, definitely under enhancement proposal 110 as a part of incubator module, because we are going to do a lot of changes to get the feedback from the developers and see how it could fit into the new JDK. This is very powerful also because you don't need any third party to use to call REST API, to call it asynchronously, or even third API for WebSockets. Or even if you'd like to use HTTP2, it's implemented by default with all the security proxies, or everything that is inside. So it's very powerful, capable, and lightweight. And the most important thing, it's included in the JDK. So you don't have to include another third-party library to use this. So they were re-incubated in JDK 10, but finally released under JDK 11 under the module java.net.http. And this provides a high-level interfaces for version 1.1 and version 2 of HTTP. And the main interfaces that only you're going to use always to declare it like HTTP client, HTTP request response, and WebSocket. Simple implementation. So if you'd like to make a call for REST or whatever it is, you can build it like this. You have a var client, you create a new HTTP client, you have a new builder, you pass the URI, you build it, you send it as sync or just send for synchronous, and then that's it. It's very easy and powerful. And if you'd like for WebSocket, you define your WebSocket listeners for, we know for on open, on error, on close, or whatever it is. Then finally, we create a WebSocket implementation from HTTP client, passing the WS URL because it's WebSocket URL, or WWS for security, and then you start listening for the messaging coming and going. And that's it. This is all the implementation that you would like to provide in order to use the HTTP clients. Very lightweight and powerful. Who of you like remember old switch statement, the boring one that we have to create it like this if you'd like to create the cases, but it will be nightmare if you just forget one break in the middle. So you will fail through and you start to debug. Then you will find that, oh my God, I forget break here. This is why 3 and 4 always execute, and 4, there is no 3, always 4 executed. And then it's error prone because it's coming from the concept of Java, C++, and this is why it was like, and lengthy and doesn't make any sense. So we start to think about, we have to enhance because it's one of the important feature in Java, switch statement, and we have to enhance it. So what we have done for this, we introduced a new switch statement in Java 11. And as I told you, to enable it, I have to, when you run Java 12 or 13, you have to enable preview because it was preview features. So we start to introduce a new token like this, error token, so you don't have to supply, like error token means like the return value will be this, or the assignment will be this directly. So and then it will break. So you don't have to provide break. It's very nice. And then we introduced expressions. Expressions mean assignments. So you can assign and the return value from the switch to a variable or as a return of the method as I did here. Here, I removed the declaration for the Roman value. I removed the return value. I removed all this kind of assignment, which is useless. And then it becomes more clear that I would like to return what is get returned from switch, and just the error token. Here is the return value in case of 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the default, just throw illegal, whatever it is, or whatever you would like to do with the default value. So what we originally do if we have like something like this, multiple comma separated labels in single switch case. So if you would like to, sometimes we use the benefit of fail through in order to say, okay, if it's 0, it will be like this and break. If it's 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9, it will be odd and break. And if it's 2, 4, 6, 9, or 10, it will be even. But it's lengthy and it's not that good. So enhance it to be like this. So you can say var kind. Also, you can assign it because it's now expression also, and just comma separated, and that's it. You don't have to have all this lengthy and fade through. And then the default you would like to do. And definitely for more, here is my tutorial about it. You can read and get feedback. And because in Java 13, we get a lot of like requests from people saying, okay, you are using break as a return value, which doesn't make any sense, something like this. You can say in case of 0, break 0. Break 0 means return 0, which doesn't make any sense. So based on your feedback as a community, you said like, please make it yield. It make more sense. Since then, we removed it, break, and introduced yield. And it could be run in this way. But yield, definitely if you run this code with break on Java 13, it will not work because we removed it. This is why it's a preview feature. And then it will work as a yield. So this is why the community feedback is important, and the preview feature is great for such changes. So in Java 14, switch expression is standardized, as you can see. So safely, you don't have to use the switch enable preview. It's already part of the language. One of my favorite is text block. The text block intended to be out there for a long time, but we have to introduce it because we would like, and this is the history, and it's final in Java 15, which will be released in 15 days. And this is all the JIPs. And instead of imagine writing this and making pluses and indentation, you can write it like this. It's very easy. Also, pattern matching, we get a lot of enhancement for pattern matching. So if object, for example, like instance of string, we do a lot of casting. Pattern matching, we have the first preview in Java 14 and second preview in Java 15. So it's meant to reduce a lot of boilerplate code and casting in the way that we do something like this. So now in Java 14, you can write it like this. If object instance of string str, you can use directly because it know that it's part of this and it casted and make the condition. If it's instance of yes and it's a string, here is it. You can use it directly without any kind of casting as we do here. The casting will be done automatically. And also for more complex, you can say like this, instance of string, and the string, you can use it even after first declaration inside the compound expression. So let's talk about data carriers. All of us using Lombok in order to implement a data, toString, equal, all of this. And we use aggregate value for data. So we have to implement a lot of boilerplate code in our classes, and Lombok start to mitigate this pain. We have to implement constructors, accessors, setter and getters, equal, hash code, toString, etc., etc., etc. So Java start to introduce records. So instead of, if we have a class point and I'd like to have internal variables and then this declaration, we are able to declare it like just in one line like this. So where is the setter, getter, internal variables and everything? Here it is. And in second preview, it works. We make it work with sealed classes and could be declared also locally inside the class. Also another great feature that I liked, which is helpful null pointer exceptions we introduced in Java 4, because if we have something like this, you will get this exception. You have null pointer exception, but you don't know where is it exactly. If you have more problems like this, more combination A.B.C.I, if you have a null pointer exception, you don't know which is not pointing to null pointer exception, to null. Either it's B or A or C or which one of these. So with the new feature, you will find the error message will be more clear, saying that, okay, there is a null pointer exception. I cannot read field C because A.B is null, which is mean B is null. So this is why, and you can find the problem in line number 5. So it's really great feature. In Java 15, we introduced first preview for sealed classes. So it allows for us, when we create classes or interfaces, to control which code is responsible for implementing these classes or interfaces. It's a declarative way, more than the access modifier by using like final only or something like this to restrict the use of superclasses. So we have these forms. So if I say public sealed is a new keyword, class shape, and I say, okay, this is allowed only to be extended by circle, rectangle, and square, it's only will be permitted only for this. If you try to extend it for by different class, it will throw a compile exception. So you cannot do this. And then you can also close the extension for the circle by the final. And also you have to extend shape because it should be implemented by shape. It's declared here. And also you can say that the rectangle could be declared as a sealed because you would like to give more extension and implementation for rectangle class. So you have to implement it like this. And then you can say that transparent rectangle and filled rectangle should be final and not extended for any kind of classes. And then finally, we have non-sealed class square extend shape means I'm open to any extension by any unknown classes, which is not declared. In my case here, it's the same like sealed. So this is a way of restricting and the way of providing more declarative way for restricting the implementation and give it more clear and the open-closed principle that we have in Solid. So now let's see new language API change. This is all about the new language features. So in string class, we have repeat. So you can now use repeat and with trim, for example, and you can have something like this without repeating this 100 or using for loops. You have is blank. It's very nice because if you don't have to trim and then the lens to check is blank doing all of this for you. And if you say the text is blank, it means it should be without any kind of spaces. So also you have stripe, leading, trailing, and stripe, which is similar to trim. So what is the difference? If you see this example, you will find that if we have this text with spaces, n/t, and this Unicode characters, so if you use trim, you will find still you have text here. And if you use stripe, it will be removed. The difference is that trim is not Unicode aware and stripe is Unicode aware. If you are using different languages than English or Latin, you should use stripe in order to remove all non-Unicode, all Unicode spaces or tabs or new lines. So we have also lines in stream. So it's return stream of lines in string. So if you have something like this and it's separated by n, so you can say lines, it will interpret new lines automatically, and you can do for each and it will print it like this. Also we have indent. Indent is very great. So you can indent either plus or minus. So if I indent 5 indentation and with -2, it will end up with this only 3 indentations. We have transform, very powerful function on string. So you can do a bunch of transformation on one string at one time without splitting on different lines in one line, something like this. I would like to transfer it to uppercase, replace all the asterisks with empty, and then split it all with white space. So you will get something like this, text without some asterisks. As a part of text block, you have formatted, which is very nice. And if you have something like this, hello, with this kind of substitution variable and dot formatted word, and then when you would like to format, you will substitute this with hello world. So you will have this kind of, why this is exception here, because it was part of Java 13 and it was meant for duplication as part of text block. So it's not production as of that 11. So you can use it safely now with Java 15. Same for stripe indentation. It's the same concept of indentation. You can use it. It's strip with indentation. The text block, that's a new method like translate escape. So if you have any escaping character, you can remove it and escape it, and to check about if this new line equal to new line escaped, it will say true or false. And we have very good, for people caring about the money and formatting of the money, we have compact number format. It's introduced in Java 12. And if we would like to represent money or something like 1K or 1 million, we don't have to implement classes. We just use number format and get compact number instance. We giving the locale and the style you would like and just the number, and it will be 10K. If it is in different language, it will give, for example, 1 million, and a different locale, it will bring you 1 billion, for example, in Europe or something like this. So streams, teeing is very powerful function we have in streams. So if we have stream of number, and to do summation and division, we have to do this in two statements. But with teeing, we can do all of this collection in one statement. It's meant to be used for collectors. So if we have this stream and we would like to sum it and counting, then based on the result, we would like to get the average, we will get the average in one line using teeing function of collectors. We could also compare now files binary, not even by text or by Unix, it's binary. So if you have one file and second file, would like to mismatch them or trying to match them, we can use files that mismatch and providing passes, and it will work normally without any problem. And it will turn -1 if it matches, otherwise it will return the location of the first mismatching byte. So also in Java 13, we have implemented all of this network implementation. Why we re-implementing? Because it was old. Secondly, we are using Project Loom, which introduces virtual threads. So we are re-implementing all the networking API in favor of using fibers inside Project Looms, which is virtual threads, which will make it very fast and less overhead on the operating system. Security, another enhancement. All of us, I think that we are aware that previously in Docker image, and when JVM trying to get the memory, it will always ask the container, and actually the request goes to the host operating system, not the container. So we have a lot of out of memory exception, and we don't know why. Because it was a bug in that the JVM, when it requests to ask the container, the request goes to host. So if the container have 2 giga, the JVM will have the information about 16 gig of the host OS. So the JVM will start to act on this 16 gig, but while the original container, and it will try to expand, then there is no physical memory allowed, then it will throw out of memory exception or suddenly will shut down your application. But since Java 10, we have all of this supported. So the correct query goes to the container, the correct memory reported, and also you can remote debugging inside JVM inside the container itself, Docker image. This is very great. And you also can control the containerization JVM resources for containerization using these parameters. So for garbage collectors, we have many enhancement and more enhancement for garbage collectors, especially for G1, GC. And I encourage you to use Java 11 because we really implemented G1, GC to be more faster by 60% and improved also in Java 12. A new garbage collector also introduced outside of the Oracle implementation, which is Epsilon. And this one is experimental one, GZC, which is for large heap memory with multi-tera of heaps. And also it was experimental in Java 11. In Java 14, we introduced GZC for Mac. And also we introduced Shenandoah, which is implemented by Red Hat, which is first time garbage collector implemented outside of Oracle and supported by another company, which is accepted. And Java 13 enhanced the GZC. And finally, in Java 15, these two GCs, ZGC and Shenandoah, goes to production finally, and they are available for developers to use in their production environment. This is very great news. And some security enhancement, as I told you, we introduced TLS3 because all of the bugs before, we implemented this TLS3 in all datagram transportation layer. Also in Java 15, we introduced Edward curve digital signature algorithms as described by RFC 1832. So we are on the latest security implementations on Java 15. What we should know about latest thing, which is deprecated. So we have a lot of removed methods inside thread class, system and runtime, security. If you are using them, you should be aware that they are removed totally. And also there is two methods here in file input stream and file output stream. And this class security warning is removed totally. And also we have removed all the implementation for Java EE related modules like Corba, transaction, activation, XML binding, and XML binding goes in separately under Maven library, and all of this is removed from JDK totally. Also, JavaFX is removed. We don't use JavaFX anymore. So I'm kidding, definitely, because JavaFX now becomes OpenJavaFX, a side implementation since Java 11. So it's not by default implemented using Java 11. You can have it from this Maven repository, and then you can use it and install it, and you can run this getting started with JavaFX 12 tutorial. Removed and deprecated tools. We have removed some tools from Java 10, and this is the other usage that you can use instead of. So, and we don't have applet anymore since Java 11. We don't have WebStart anymore. You can use Glink with JPackager tools to package your WebStart application. Nashorn engine, which was introduced in JDK 8 and introduced to be deprecated in favor to use Graal.js with Graal VM, and package also the way that we package jar files, it's removed. So you can use Glink and JPackager tool. And you have to know that since Java 15, we have removed completely Nashorn engine. So you only can use JavaScript supported inside your JVM. If you'd like, use Graal.js with Graal VM. And finally, also we have removed totally marked RMI activation for removal. So it's deprecated for future removal. I expect the RMI will be removed in Java 17. Finally, important tools we have open sourced, like micro-benchmarking with GHM Edge. This is very important. This is micro-benchmarking harnesses. We use it to benchmarking all the JDK implementation for graphics, for security, for implementations. So you can use it, but it's not meant for performance testing. It's for algorithm testing only. So don't rely on GMH on performance testing. You have JMeter, you have a lot of other tools, but this is only if you have different algorithms and you would like to see the different running conditions for each algorithm in different environment, use GMH under your implementation. Definitely, we open sourced also Visual VM, and this is very important for integrating with command line tools and lightweight profiling capabilities designed for both development and production. So you can profile the production environment and see how it goes with your memory, threading, CPUs and everything, and record all of this. It's a very powerful tool and it's open source. And definitely Flight Recorder. And since Java 11, Flight Recorder is low overhead data collection framework for JVM. So you can use it for, it was commercial and it's open source, sourced by Oracle for use on OpenJDK. So this is all what I would like to say about the features, the tools, the APIs, the history since Java 9, about Java and my presentation today. So I know that I gave you a lot of things to do, and I don't know if I have sometimes for, I gave you a lot of things to memorize, and you don't have to memorize it. You can go to my GitHub profile, and then you will find this presentation. Also, I will give it to the organizers so they can spread it for you afterward, or you just ping me to have it. Thank you very much for listening and attendance. And I think that if we have some times, we can take some questions.
Yes, we have 2 questions.
Yes, I see it. Is it in chat? It's in
Q&A.
Yeah, but Q&A, sorry, there is a chat. I was reading the chat. Should I avoid to use preview language feature in my production code application? I can say yes, because this is why we provided a preview feature, because as you have seen in switch expression, for example, we have not just implemented new feature. You can say like, if the new feature, it will not affect my old feature. But if you use, for example, break, and then we change it to yield, you start to use the new JDK, your code will break. So before you move, you should be aware what the changes happening for each features that you have used as a preview in order to use it safely, or you stay away from using it in production until it's stabilized for your sake of clarity and not failing in production or using something like this. But I think that if you are running this in your before production, and you would like, this is incubator features and things like this, yes, you can rely on it, but under your own risk, because it will not affect if you tested well. If you have tested your code, you can definitely avoid all of this and use the preview feature in production. But you should test first. This is very important. Test first. Are there any JIPs to implement something like C#'s name of var? I think, I don't know about this question, but I think that we have a lot of future implementation about pattern matching, not just meant for switch statement or for classes or for sealed. We are going to implement something like name of var or a lot of things like this to just give the type of the origin of these types using pattern matching in order to avoid all the casting and providing all this information about these kind of implementation in other languages, because we look for other languages, we try to provide this. I think that we will have something like this, but it will be in the future, because pattern matching is really a huge topic. We cover it slightly. We started with switch expression, now instance of, and then we have used it with sealed. We used it also sometimes with record, and we are improving. So we will reach it to have something like C# name of var. There is Tamer Mohammed. Thanks for your time. You are welcome, definitely. And thank you very much. I have a question regarding 6 months release strategy, which means production code has to be migrated each 6 months with the risk of things might be removed from JDK. No, when we introduce 6 months means there is some people working in tooling, working on IDEs, working on some features that they need new feature. It doesn't mean that you need this kind of to be adapting. You don't need to adapt the new release cadence each 6 months. It will be headache if you are a company. So you just, as I told you, if you are a big company and you are aware of the stability of your production for long-term support, use the long-term support versions. You don't have to cope with this. You can cope with 6 release cadence as R&D in order to implement the new feature. But when you implement it, you will need the tools to implement this. All the tooling, all the like Maven, Gradle, IntelliJ IDEA, NetBeans, all of these tools out there implementing side by side. Before we release the new version, all of these IDEs and tools are capable to handle all the features of these new versions, or sooner right after. So I suppose there is no one will move forward with 6 months release unless it's R&D, or if you are looking for some features that you need it in your production. So you can prepare your code in R&D or under testing, and then once this feature that you would like to have stabilized, you can just migrate to the new version, and that's it, stick to it. So we move only when we see we need to move. That's it. Sometimes, as I told you, I encourage all of you to move to Java 11. I didn't say Java 15. Why? First of all, it's long-time support, and there is a lot of enhancement in JVM area, especially the garbage collector. It's enhanced, and the security and the cloud awareness. All of this you will get for free. from JDK 11. So this is why I encourage you, but Java 15 still not long-term support, but you can move to it if you would like to prepare for 17, for example. If you like text block and you like all of this, so you can change all your code and move to it. So it's not meant to move definitely the production each 6 months. It will be very big headache and risky. So some huge system, which, yes, that's it. So thank you for Jan Delva for your question, and thank you for Zadasliva. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing wrong, and for Tamer Mohammed. So any other questions?
No more questions. I think you answered all. So thank you, Mohammed. We appreciate your support. It was a great session.
And as I told you, you can ping me at any time, anywhere on my channels. You can find me, and you are welcome. Thank you for having me, and really it was a big pleasure to speak to Latin American lovely people and anyone joining from outside Latin America. Thanks for your time. Thanks for having me. Wish you a good days and best of luck with other sessions.
Okay, I will close the session now. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you.